Uh, we here. We got that boy. Brewski! Let's get on and say my intro though. What's up, y'all? It's your host, the most, that's most. Crispy? Welcome back to another video. Brewski! White people hate Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow our social media. Going to pop on the screen. And if I gotta say
More
it
than
slow for
20
everybody,
years
hold
ago,
on.
Charlie
hold on,
and the Chocolate Factory
Hold on,
hit
Brewski.
theaters.
If I gotta say it slow to y'all, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, follow on social media, and tell a friend or family also they can subscribe too. You feel me? And yeah, and if you forgot that quick, make sure you subscribe. Um, I love y'all, like always. And I hope y'all having a nice, good, blessed day. Let's get on to it. Brewski!
More than 20 years ago, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory hit theaters and
I was so
became
late on the Brewski video, bro, because I had other things. I had other things in line and stuff like that. No, I ain't lying to you, though. That last video that we watched with Brewski, I think was the Zone one. I think y'all really liked it, that one, too. Did y'all? I think that happened at 4th of July. Did I drop that, right? It been a little minute since Brewski dropped that. Well, no. He had more than, he had something else then. And I don't know. I don't know.
one of the most polarizing adaptations ever made. Elijah Wood described it as unhappy and terribly disturbing.
Willy Wonka in Tim Burton's film is heinous and terrifying and molesty and strange.
Meanwhile, Gene Wilder thought it was a soulless cash grab. He called it an insult and refused to even watch the film. Audiences complained that it was too dark and insensitive, that Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka felt like a creepy impersonation, and that the added backstory only made things worse.
I thought he made some very, very strange choices, and from the
I ain't gonna hold you. Charlie and the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was kind of low key, kind of scary. Low key, kind of scary, especially that scene when that dude ate that candy and he blew up like a big thing, like a big air, and he just flew away. And that girl who was like diving in that chocolate fountain, I think, and then she fell in the chocolate fountain and was gone. I think they was going in different ways, them kids and everybody else. I don't know. I hope you explain it.
very start, Willy Wonka is such a creepy, mean-spirited guy that, you know, before they even get into the factory, the kids and their parents would be running for the hills.
It's not really a secret that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory has had a rocky history. While the story itself is a classic, every iteration has been divisive in one way or another. When Roald Dahl first published the novel in 1964, he depicted the Oompa Loompas as black pygmies that Willy Wonka had imported from the deepest and darkest part of the African jungle. As the 1970s
Basically saying for people not to understand this, and basically was talking about just get to the point.
one film adaptation was being
Like, no, I'm not talking about Brewski or saying this. I'm talking about the dude who wrote the book. Like he thought he was slick back then, but now we caught on. We know what you talking about. You ain't slick, nigga. Like, what's wrong with
the
you?
NAACP issued a statement criticizing the portrayal as racist. In response, Dahl revised the book in 1973, reimagining the Oompa Loompas with golden brown hair and rosy white skin. But the original version had already been in circulation for nearly a decade, and he couldn't exactly erase the damage by changing the text. The movie adaptation wasn't a huge success when it first released. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory earned about $4 million on a $3 million budget, though as time went on, it became a massive hit through TV airings and home video sales, cementing it as a beloved family classic. But Roald Dahl famously hated the film. He thought it was overly sappy and sentimental, and described Gene Wilder's portrayal.
I like this one. I like this one, but not that other one with the Chocolate Factory. One, the one we talk about today. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I mean, I liked it, but it was kind of low key, kind of creepy though.
portrayal of Willy Wonka as pretentious. Dahl imagined Wonka as a more sinister, reclusive character. Wilder, in his eyes, had too much of a sweet face and too light of a voice. He felt there was something wrong with Wonka's soul in the movie, and that Wilder's delivery just wasn't how he imagined the lines being spoken. Then there was the title. Instead of using the name of the book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the movie was renamed Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The production was largely financed by the Quaker Oats Company. They wanted to tie the movie directly to a new chocolate bar they were preparing to launch, called the Wonka Bar. The title change didn't service the story. It felt more like a marketing campaign to sell candy. It was another decision that Dahl despised. He basically disowned the adaptation and refused to let Hollywood adapt the book's sequel, Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. 20 years later, after Roald Dahl had passed away, Warner Bros. Began discussions with the Dahl estate about producing a new film adaptation. Dahl's family knew how strongly he felt about the previous movie and wanted to respect his wishes, so for years the project was unable to move forward, until 1998, when a deal was finally reached. Dahl's widow and daughter were given significant creative control, including final approval over the choices of actors, directors, and writers. Even with those safeguards in place, the remake spent years looking for the right creative direction. Martin Scorsese was attached at one point, while the role of Willy Wonka went through a long list of potential candidates. Nicolas Cage, Jim Carrey, Will Smith, Robin Williams.
We would have got Jim Carrey or Will Smith. Nah, son, that would have been clean. That would have been clean.
Williams and Bill Murray were all reported.
Even Bill Murray. Oh, that would have been clean too.
In discussions. By 2003, they landed on Tim Burton to direct. He had previously worked on another Roald Dahl adaptation, James and the Giant Peach, as a producer, and according to Dahl's widow, he was the only director the estate was happy with. It also helped that Burton wasn't a fan of the 1971 movie either. Johnny Depp was Burton's top pick for Willy Wonka, but he had a backup choice in case Depp wasn't available, Dwayne Johnson. That's not a joke.
Stick it straight up all your candy asses!
Tim Burton's goal from the beginning was to make a movie that actually brought the book to life, and as the script came together, that's mostly what they did. But there were still some significant changes made along the way. It expanded on Grandpa Joe's connection to the factory, added a psychological backstory involving Wonka's father, and gave the kids much more characterization than they had in the book. All in all, it was clear that they were making the polar opposite of the Gene Wilder film. Screenwriter John August hadn't even seen the movie. When he asked Tim Burton if he should watch it, Burton almost leaped across the table and told him not to. Rather than making the story light and whimsical, they embraced the darker tone of Dahl's book. They didn't want to soften the children's fates or shy away from the story's darker elements.
We just decided, when I got involved with it, just to kind of go back to the basics and try to be as true to the book as we could be.
Royal's works are extremely subversive, and there is a darkness in some of them.
But being accurate to the book also meant holding on to some of the more problematic ideas.
And what is that?
When it came to Johnny Depp's performance, he had some big shoes to fill. Gene Wilder's portrayal of Willy Wonka had become iconic, so he was bound to be compared. In the book, Wonka is depicted as having marvelously bright eyes, a black top hat, a plum-colored coat, a small black goatee, and whitish-gray hair. He's eccentric, highly energetic, mischievous, constantly making quick, jerky movements, and laughing to himself. He was comparable to the Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor. Gene Wilder captured a lot of that manipulative edge, but his version of Wonka was warmer and more empathetic. With the exception of that scene.
Nothing! You lose!
And that part. While Johnny Depp definitely took some creative liberties with the character, he wanted to stick closer to Dahl's original vision. For inspiration, he imagined the strange and overly cheerful personality of a children's show host.
My initial idea was, I kept seeing like a game show host, you know, like a bad game show host in a way.
Bravo! Well done.
And that led me to the idea of like a children's show host. Tim and I got together and we were talking about it, and it's like, really great thing is a local children's show host. A guy who certainly puts on a face.
Warner Bros. Had been trying to acquire the film rights since the early 90s, and after years of negotiations, legal work, and development, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was officially announced in May 2003. The original film had become ingrained in pop culture, and the studio spent years trying to get a new adaptation off the ground, so expectations were high. They provided a budget of $150 million, and filming began in June 2004. By that point in Tim Burton's career, it was the most expensive movie he'd ever worked on. Some of the budget went to VFX, but Burton wanted to use practical sets as much as possible. The town was a 1/24th scale miniature that took over 6 months to build. It wasn't meant to represent any specific location.
How they did that? Bro, I know that took so long. I bet this was the long. This piece took the longest. This, at best, it was probably like section. They did this section, that section. I think this had to be the longest ones right here. This all right here had to be the longest one. Especially probably had to get these little things to form and stuff like that. Especially all right here.
Miniature that took over 6 months to build. It wasn't meant to represent any specific location. Instead, they combined historical and industrial influences from different places to create a city that felt timeless, like something out of a fable. Many of the sets had Tim Burton's signature warped, twisted look, but when it came to smaller spaces like the Buckets house, they were claustrophobic and difficult to navigate.
There's not a straight line in it, and the set is quite lethal. I mean, you need sort of almost extreme sport working on a set because you can easily do an ankle, but we get used to it.
For the mechanical dolls scene, the filmmakers created 60 different figures. The first 30
60?
were built to survive filming using flame-resistant materials, while the other 30 were made from wax and gelatin for when they melted. The scene took an extremely long time to shoot, and by the end, the cast and crew were just waiting for the marionettes to finally melt and not have to hear that song again. The nut room sequence was one of the toughest parts of the production. They had the budget to create the squirrels entirely with CGI, but Tim Burton wanted to go the extra mile. They brought in 40 real squirrels along with animal trainers to teach them how to sit on stools, tap walnuts, and drop them onto a conveyor belt. The process took months of training and repetition, but they delivered solid performances. The movie premiered on July 10th, 2005, and it was a massive hit for Warner Bros.
That's my year.
It earned almost $475 million, the Wonka candy bars were relaunched with golden tickets, and there was a video game released alongside it. Unfortunately, it was snubbed for Game of the Year by God of War. Generally, critics were impressed with the new adaptation.
See, it's always God of War is coming out of nowhere. Kratos. I think this was before Kratos even had a kid. That bald-head ass nigga.
They praised it for having stunning visuals, sharp dialogue, and some great performances. Instead of destroying a classic, as many people feared, Burton has completely reinvented and reinvigorated it, creating something terrific and timeless. There's more manic invention and sheer joy of filmmaking in any 5 minutes of Burton's Charlie than in all the mainstream releases of 2005 put together. Characters who didn't have much depth in the original were given more personality and development. It was admirable that the filmmakers took this version of the story in such a different direction, but for many, they had taken it too far. Some of it was nostalgia, but for others, it was genuine discomfort. They felt that all the warmth and magic associated with the story had been stripped away, replaced by a cold, surreal atmosphere. Compared to the cozy town in the 1971 film, this one looked more like Gotham, which made sense given the director, but it wasn't exactly what audiences expected. But the most divisive part of the movie was Johnny Depp's performance as Willy Wonka.
The Earth says hello.
From his appearance to his mannerisms and dialogue, it was a bold take on the character. Some people's opinion was that he carried the movie, and that it was captivating just to see what he would do next. But a lot of people viewed him as a creepy, unlikable sociopath.
I don't care.
It was almost impossible not to notice the Michael Jackson comparisons. While
See, why does it don't? That's not him. Stop. Why y'all be doing that? That is not Michael, bro. Bro, Charlie in the Chocolate Factory is not Michael, bro. He's not similar to Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson would have never did this to this kid right here. Let's get to this point right here. Show the point right here where that kid was making that weird noise.
him as a creepy, unlikable sociopath.
I don't care.
Like, he would have never did that. He probably would have did the same thing back to the kid. And hold on, why you get this picture? Brusky, I'm about to get on you. Brusky, why you, out of all the pictures of Mike, why you got this picture? He got better pictures of him of this color.
It was almost impossible not to notice the Michael Jackson comparisons. While Johnny Depp supposedly had no intention of making Wonka resemble him, there were some glaring similarities.
Johnny Depp, usually such an inspired actor, does not make a compelling Willy Wonka. It's the strangest thing, but watching him, I kept thinking of Michael Jackson crossed with Carol Burnett.
The film expanded the backstory of several major characters, but especially Wonka himself. In both the book and the Gene Wilder movie, Willy Wonka's origin is left a mystery. Some things can be inferred just by how they act, but for the most part, the character remains an enigma. But in this version, Willy Wonka has traumatic flashbacks.
I ain't lying to you. When I was little, I thought when you get your braces, I thought you had to walk in school just like this, though. I'm not going to hold you. I got to a point I thought it was going to really happen to me.
To his terrifyingly strict father, Count Dooku. It might have fleshed him out more, but not everyone thought that was a good thing. Audiences criticized the choice for demystifying the character and ruining the magic. There was also the music. Even though the lyrics were taken directly from the book, for some, the songs felt over the top and forgettable. While the original film had its darker moments, this one took things a step further. For one thing, the children's fates were depicted in much more brutal ways. This alone.
See, I knew I wasn't tripping. Ain't one of them kids got taken by the chocolate?
The children's fates were depicted.
I was about to say, I knew one of them kids got taken to chocolate, and then the fat kid, he just got big and freaking flew away somewhere.
In much more brutal ways.
And she got taken by squirrels.
This alone was too dark for some, but the adaptation also revived some of the book's controversial themes. Wonka journeys to a distant tropical jungle in search of new exotic flavors while wearing a colonial outfit and brings the Oompa Loompas back as his workers. This rubbed a lot of moviegoers the wrong way. Some felt it brought back the story's white savior themes and was culturally insensitive. Gene Wilder's Wonka did essentially the same thing, but in a much less overt way.
So I said, come and live with me in peace and safety, away from all the wang-doodles and hornswogglers and snozwangers and rotten, vermicious knids.
Even though the movie featured a ton of expensive practical sets, there were still complaints about the CGI, that it was overused and felt tacky.
See? I know I wasn't tripping.
Complaints about the CGI, that it was overused.
Oh, it was a girl. I think that was a dude. No, well, the original one must have been a dude then.
Then felt tacky.
Must be
there was a Cinema Crazed review published on December 12, 2005 that sums up a lot of the movie's negative reception. The critic opens it by mentioning his nostalgic attachment to the original. Willy Wonka was a facet of my childhood, a film that never got old, a film that still is as enjoyable and entertaining as it was 15 years ago. With Burton's new predictably twisted and gothic remake, I won't be surprised if 10 years from now we'll even be remembering making this bland reproduction. Burton is insistent on making this production menacing beyond anything, while the original had fangs behind its smile. He doesn't hesitate to give us the backstory to every single character. The original had us curious about Wonka, wondering who he was, where he came from, and if Wonka was even his real name, while Burton explains who Wonka is in a meandering backstory that was utterly predictable and trite. He gives his take on the nuanced differences between Gene Wilder and Johnny Depp. Wilder had an insanity to him that made him look likable while having you pulling your kids to you. Wilder, with his bright clothing and wild hair, made us believe that this was an eccentric man whose genius was this factory. Burton forces down our throat that this version of Wonka is insane by making it very obvious. With pale skin, large teeth, a high-pitched voice, and a weird laugh, Burton tried too hard to remind us of Wonka's insanity. The review described Depp's performance as a mixture of Marilyn Manson and Michael Jackson, and argued that Burton had joined the long list of directors who couldn't surpass the original. But among the people who liked the movie was Roald Dahl's widow, Felicity. The Dahl estate had supported the project from the beginning, and Felicity said she believed Roald would have loved the adaptation because it felt so much closer to his original vision.
When I went to Pinewood and saw the whole of the Pinewood lot covered in Wonka, I knew if Ron had seen that, he would have just said, "This is what I had in my mind."
People who had never been fans of the 1971 film also appreciated Burton's version. Others just enjoyed its snappy energy and surreal style. Now, the generation that grew up with the Burton movie is old enough to feel nostalgia for it. As a result, it's continued to divide audiences.
Johnny Depp is atrocious in that remake. I couldn't even finish it. Kids will like this movie more than the Johnny Depp one.
Oh, I think so.
He very much took it in his own direction. But I think he missed the mark, and it's a terribly disturbing, unhappy film.
Whenever Gene Wilder was asked about the film, he didn't hold back. "I think it's an insult. Johnny Depp, I think, is a good actor, but I don't care for that director. He's a talented man, but I don't care for him doing stuff like he did. It's just some people sitting around thinking, how can we make some more money?" It's been pointed out that the 1971 film could be seen as more of a studio cash grab. It was produced in partnership with Quaker to promote a new candy line and deviated pretty far from the source material. Burton's movie, on the other hand, was a much more faithful adaptation that expanded on the characters and had his signature visual style. It's a hard line to walk whenever a studio tries to retell a classic story. If it's a shot-for-shot remake, audiences call it pointless. But if it changes too much or adds too much new information, it risks over-explaining what made the original so.
Wait, which one y'all liked? The original one, or y'all like the Willy Wonka or the chocolate Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or you like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? But I really liked it both, but the Charlie one was kind of low-key creepy. What? Hope y'all enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Follow our social media, pop on the screen. See y'all when I see y'all. Love y'all to the bottom of my heart. On the road to 700. And I'm out.